I'm going to go through the basics of Google Classroom, from how to set up your class to how to invite students to some really important settings and features to make your e-teaching life easier. To start though, let's just review a few of the e-learning basics. First and foremost, there is no right or wrong, especially in the current unprecedented circumstances. Just remember that and do your best. That's all anybody can really do. And there are so many ways you could go about doing this, but you know your students, they know you know your community. Do what you think is best. A few tips though. One, be consistent. Whatever you choose to do, try to make it consistent for both yourself and your students. Use Classroom to organize. I suggest by date in this circumstance, just so that your students, the parent community, are all very clear on what needs to be done. Secondly, keep it simple. I would recommend you build a template, something maybe in slides or in a Google Doc, where you can share a daily or weekly agenda with links to resources, the work that needs to be completed, and so forth. Try to streamline as much as possible. And finally, reflect your style. Your teaching style can and should reflect online. So think about if you are a much more, organized, direct, and orderly type teacher. If you are more laid back and you like to connect more personally with your students, whatever it may be. So today I'm going to talk about how to create a class, how to invite students, how you can invite guardians and what that means for you, general settings and configurations to be aware of, using the stream versus the classwork tab, some organizational considerations, how to create, post, and schedule assignments, some of your options in terms of what you can create for your students, how to make a copy of a drive file for each student and possibly even differentiate, how to tag or comment, and if you have any questions, you can contact me directly. So let's go ahead and jump right into Google Classroom. So let's say I would like to create a class. I'm going to go ahead and hit the plus button in the upper right and then create class. Now I'm going to name my class. So I'm going to call this demo. You can give it a section. If you teach multiple, I would identify them however you want, section 1 or period maybe 3, however you want to do it. What subject it is, I'm just going to put tech. And then your room number, if you want to include that, I'm going to put virtual. So it's going to take a minute to process here. And now I'm in my class. I'm not going to worry about showing you these things, but you can change the theme. You can also upload your own cover photo. It has to be a certain resolution, and so forth. Now, this is the class code, which is one way you can have your students join your class, but I will show you the simpler way, which is tab over to people and hit the plus button. And you can invite them by email if they have email access. The other option is to give them this code and you tell them to go to classroom.google.com where you created your class. They will also hit plus, except they will hit join class and enter the code. You'll notice that when you have students in your class, you'll also have the option to invite guardians once you load students in. Now, inviting guardians is the same concept where you're going to enter emails to give them an invite, except a guardian is not going to get full access to your class. What they will get is a summary report, which will essentially be a weekly report on if they're missing work, when it was due, and any announcements that you post in the stream. So I can't really show you that because I don't have students in this classroom right now, but inviting guardians is a good idea, especially if you're concerned about work completion. You could also get some footing, just use students and add guardians later. Now you can add a few other teachers as well. I believe the limit is 4, 3 including yourself. But you only really need to invite a teacher if you think they need to post or create assignments. If you want to invite, let's say, your principal because they want to be in the loop on what you're doing, you could always invite them as a student just so they can see and access your class. So that's something just to keep in mind. So classwork and stream are going to be the two modes that you're going to work off more often. Now, stream, think of this as your announcement page, your news feed, your way to shoot tidbits or hellos or memos or reminders to your class. Classwork is going to be the primary landing page for Google Classroom. And what I recommend here is that you actually bookmark the classwork page. So in my Chrome browser, I get this little star. This is actually where I'm going to say maybe demo period 2. And I would like it to appear in my bookmark. So now you can see I can easily access my classwork page because this is where I'm building assignments. So what I recommend is that you use this topic feature as it recommends to you to organize. Think about your topics as folders. How do you want to organize your material so that your students can easily navigate this? Now, again, there's no right or wrong way to do this. I'm going to give you a few examples right now. Now, one way to organize topics are by topics. So, for example, you have a topic or folder called materials where students can access any resources. Maybe you have one called today where you drop whatever they need to do for that particular day. And then maybe you have homework, bell ringers, bookwork, whatever it might be. Another option is by unit. This works well for maybe like a department or math or science program. You can also reorder topics. You can drag them, move them up or down. By week is what I think actually would be ideal for the case of the COVID-19 situation and extended e-learning. This way, parents or students are just not confused. So maybe on the week prior, you plan the upcoming week and you have assignments listed underneath even by day, like, okay, here's Monday, September 3rd. Here's Tuesday, September 4th. That way it just minimizes confusion, especially in a complete virtual environment. Another option is by assignment type. So again, this could be quizzes, homework, collaborative work, reading, however you want to set that up. By subject probably would work well, I would think, in an elementary setting where you're teaching multiple subjects. Or again, by today. This might also work well if you think your students might be confused. You could just tell them to always navigate to today. Now, keep in mind, this is going to require you moving things in and out on a daily basis or nightly basis to get it set up. So that's maybe like a downside of that, but it would make it easy if they know that's just like their number one landing spot. But what's really important is not how you organize it, but what would really just work for you personally. Our brains all work differently. Our classes are all set up differently. So what just makes sense to you and what would make sense for your students? Think about their age, their ability, their tech savviness, their familiarity with Classroom, if you've used it before versus if it's new just for this e-learning situation. So that would be your topic. So I would recommend, I'm just going to go ahead and make one now. I'm going to call this my today topic. I'm going to go ahead and create another one that I'm going to call resources. But notice I can drag and drop and reorder them. I would say put the most important one at the top, the least important at the bottom as well, unless it's by date. Now I can put these things in my topics, in my folders. An assignment is something you want your students to do something with. They will have to turn it in or submit it. They will get late notices if you have a due date. A quiz assignment will automatically generate a Google form that can be graded or assessed. A question is going to be something more open-ended, short answer or multiple choice, just one single question. This is good for a survey or a poll. You can either have it set where students can see and reply to each other. Notice that's checked by default. Or if you uncheck it, only you, the teacher, can read the question. Short answer or multiple choice are your only options. You can upload relevant files. Let's say you want them to read a short paragraph and then put their interpretation. You only want to see it. Or maybe you want to open it up to a student discussion. So keep in mind that's a great option that I think sometimes gets overlooked. Material is also a really great option. This is just something you want them to have. This can be a PDF, Google Slides, a YouTube video, a website. You can upload multiple materials. I would definitely recommend you always write some type of description so they understand what they're supposed to do. This is something that does not have to be turned in. That's the difference between material and assignment. When I go to assignment, notice that I can assign points or due dates. So let me walk you through assignments, as this is something you'll probably use often. Now it's up to you if you want to assign points or just mark it ungraded, and you can grade it on your own at a later time. I'm going to call this paragraph response. And I'm going to say, read the article and respond to the questions in the Google Doc. I'd probably give something a little bit more descriptive than that. Now, I have an option to assign to all students, or I can uncheck and only select students who I want to receive this. This is a great way to differentiate if you want to assign it for enrichment or for support. You can also assign this to multiple classes. So let's say I want this to drop into my other sections. You can do that. Another great option is you can schedule this. So let's say I'm someone who likes to sit in the evening and get a lot of things done, so I don't have to worry about it the next day. I can schedule this to post at a designated date or time. Let's say I want it posted on Monday at 8 a.m. Due date. This is important if you want them to do something with it. So if I'm scheduling it for Monday at 8 a.m. and I want it due Tuesday by end of day, I can do that, and then they will be notified that it is late. I can also say where I want this topic, in what folder do I want it, or topic by today. I'm not going to go into originality or rubrics. That's a little more complicated. And then I can go ahead and upload anything I need. So let's say I have a website link and a PDF file and a Google Drive file. So let me just go ahead and pretend that I'm assigning this homework, this worksheet I want them to do. And I also want to maybe upload something. So keep in mind, you can upload multiple things. So I'm going to upload this PDF. So now this fits my direction. I said, read the article, respond to the questions. Now, in this case, I want the students just to be able to view the file because it's just something to read. But on this doc, I want to say make a copy for each student. What this will do is replicate my original and create an individual copy for each student so they cannot see or edit each other's work. The student can then submit that assignment to me. So I'm going to go ahead and assign this. It's going to take a minute to process. And it is done, and this is how it looks. So the next thing I would like to show you are a few settings that you want to be aware of. First of all, in the upper right corner, you will see the setting to control for your class. So if you scroll down, I want to point out that here you can either reset your class code if you need to. Let's say people are saying they cannot access your class or there's some issue, that sometimes helps. You can also control what can be done on the stream. Now it defaults to students can post and comment on your stream or your announcements page. I personally like to leave it as students can only comment, but you can also restrict it to only teachers can post or comment. So think about your class and how you'd want to use that. You can also control what appears on your stream. It defaults to show condensed notifications, meaning if you create an assignment or post a material, it will show a condensed version of that. Or you can have it show a full version, like all the attachments and assignment details. Or you can hide notifications and only use the stream for your personal announcements. Guardian summaries defaults to off. You want to turn it on if you would like the guardians to receive a summary of their students' work. Remember, you do need to add the guardians for them to receive that. The second spot for settings is on this left upper hamburger type model you see. Now it's kind of covered right now by this pop-up, but if you see there's another gear icon, these are my personal settings. I can change or add a profile picture. Some people get driven crazy by all the notifications which are automatically on. Here you can really adjust anything that you want to receive. I think it's great that students get these notifications, but if you're enrolled in other classes, like professional classes, you might want to adjust this or even what your students receive. So you can turn notifications on or off. Back in the stream, I want to point out what I did was I turned the condensed notifications off, which gives us a real clean newsfeed-like look. I think it's sometimes nice to use this as a way just to talk to your class. Maybe you want to ask them some simple question like, what made you happy yesterday? What did you do? What's going on here? What's your favorite movie? Something that you just want to connect with. And you could also just give them some instructions like, hey, good morning. Today, what you're going to do is read this really awesome story by this author, and then you're going to answer some questions, think about the theme, or however you want to approach it. The nice thing is students can comment if you leave that feature on. You can even tag people here. If you type @ and start typing their email, maybe you want to call someone out to get them a message and so forth. Also, if a student does have an assignment due date coming up, it will appear here in upcoming. So before I wrap up here, I want to give a few pro tips. Number one, if you're not using Google Chrome as your browser, it really would be the best choice. Classroom and Chrome are compatible, both being Google platforms. You can just go to your current browser and download Chrome and operate off that. Like I mentioned, I recommend that you bookmark your classwork page so that you're not clicking all the time. So remember to do that. I now have it right here. When I click on demo period 2, it's going to open right to my classwork, which is where I'm really building my materials. It's also a good idea to use standard naming conventions. So however you name your topics, keep it consistent. However you're naming assignments, maybe you put the word homework hyphen and then identify it, or quiz hyphen identify it, or resource hyphen identify it, so your students know what they're opening. You also, again, want to think about how you want to organize those topics or folders, however you want to view them. Remember to use your stream. It is a really great way to talk to your class, and it cuts down on excess emails and things like that. And another little FYI, there is a Google Classroom mobile app, which is a great way to control your class and check in at your fingertips if you want that option. Most importantly, like I said in the beginning, there is no right or wrong way to do this. The idea is jump in, do what works for you, works for your personality, works for your class, and you've got this. Reach out if I can do anything to help.